Howdy everyone, today you're rocking with Redbeard, and Norsca has been revealed as the second faction in the Slaanesh DLC, with the third inevitably being High Elves. If you've watched my prediction series, this was not my vision of an ideal outcome. In my perfect world, Dark Elves would have been the second faction, and Norsca would have been saved for its own champion-style pack. I worry that Norsca will now never get the justice it deserves, with only one legendary lord and a few units. Maybe that's all we'll ever get. Sayl the Faithless was the most important in covering the missing aspects and flavors of Norsca, but he leaves, in my opinion, a few large holes as far as campaign variety for the roster. I fear, with the addition of the Chimera unit, that they will steer the race into feeling like Chaos Light instead of Warhammer Vikings or the Tribes of the North. Don't worry though, this video will not be all doom and gloom, a languishing lament. Norsca is just one of my favorite races in the game, and perhaps there is still a glimmer of hope that we will get at least a fourth legendary lord at some point, perhaps as FLC, or maybe they could give one more lord to every race in the final DLC for the game. Wouldn't it be nice? I nearly wrote a whole series for Norsca almost 2 years ago now, and now I'm kicking myself by making the same mistake Games Workshop and Creative Assembly made before me and not doing something about it sooner. I want to right that wrong by explaining why the Champions Pack would have been ideal and what's the best outcome going forward now that they have shoehorned my boys into the Slaanesh DLC, much like they did for Greenskins in the Khorne DLC. They also deserved a champion pack. So, getting into how the Champions pack would have worked, I laid out the basic concept in all my predictions for Warhammer 3 video, check top right. The 4 legendary lords would have brought the Norscan roster to 6 and finished the race with a nice neat bow. I might continue to talk about Norsca and make a separate video for each of these lords. Sayl the Faithless was always the first choice out the door, leader of the Dolgan tribe, which is chief among all Kurgan tribes. Sayl is a great chaos sorcerer. The line between Norsca, Kurgan, Warrior of Chaos, Undivided, and Monogod are always debated. Sayl is no different. For Total War's sake, though, Norsca is all the tribes, including Kurgan, Tong, and Hung. Sayl is way more of a mammoth lord than Wulfric, and I would rework Wulfric to reflect such. Since Wulfric probably won't lose his War Mammoth mount, I would absolutely give Sayl a War Shrine Mammoth mount. Now that's a DLC selling mount, though not technically new. So I would go a step further and give him a unique Mammoth mount. There is a character named Tarok, who once led the Khazag tribe. As a follower of Chaos, he took his war band into the Chaos Wastes. His people worshipped the father of all mammoths, Angkor, as their god. He wanted to show them their folly, and so broke tame and corrupted the beast. For ages to come, Tarok would lead the Khazags to war, riding the god of mammoths, Angkor, wielding his bow and spear. Tarok and Angkor would make the perfect Norscan legendary hero alongside Sayl, IMO, an archer lord with the strongest mammoth mount in the game, buffs all mammoths and Kurgan flavored units like cavalry. If Tarok is not CA's choice for a legendary hero though, I would just make Angkor Sayl's Warshrine mount. Sayl's skill line should look something like this. Kurgan flavored mount, powerful spellcaster wielding both the lores of heavens and shadows with a standard arcane conduit, buffs that make him the best for fielding mammoths and cavalry. And I can't talk about Sayl without talking about Nightmaw. As described in the developer's video, Nightmaw is summoned by Sayl in battle. While it would cause fear and be unbreakable, this is not your average chaos spawn. The amalgamation of all his tribe shamans he betrayed during a ritual, Nightmaw is a lurching, flailing horror who will likely have a boosted missile resistance, magical attacks, and horrible regeneration. Perhaps it even has animations that blur his exact form and location. Or perhaps Nightmaw has a point-and-click teleport ability, or a decoy Nightmaw similar to Elithanar. Any which way should be fun. It should be noted that Sayl is the first spellcaster of the Norscan legendary lords. The other shaman sorcerers are also known as Vitki, shown in the teaser trailer, will be the first spellcaster generic lords. Finally, covering Sayl's tabletop rules and translating a Total War, Mutant Sight might give him immune to psychology and increased leadership aura. The Viperous Staff might give him ward save and poison attacks, which would be very powerful if that carries over to his Mammoth's mounts, per se. Shalkian's Teeth will give him a magic missile, I'm sure, maybe with like 5 bound uses or something. And Trader's Mist might do 2 things. 1, if you take him on foot, he may fly similar to Malagor, but borne on a cloud instead of wings. 2, more similar to Skarsnik, could act as a stalking aura, stealthing anyone in Sayl's proximity, which could be very scary if Sayl surrounds himself with mammoths hidden in the mists. When I was writing my Norsca series, I laid out a sub-race for each of the 4 lords, which is definitely not happening now, but perhaps we'll get 1 or 2 of these units. For Sayl's sub-race, it would have been based on cavalry from the steppes. We currently have no dedicated melee cavalry in the Norscan roster. Kurgan Horsemen would provide that wielding axe and shield. Kurgan Knights would be closer to Chaos Knights, being heavily armored shock cavalry. Dolgan Cavalry is top tier, so I had the idea of steppe wolves or woolly rhinos, maybe as mounts. I thought if the hobgoblins can do it, maybe? Not married to it, though Ice Wolf Knights would have a lot of cool factor. The Hung and Tong may never see the light of day, but could work in Norsca for Sayl's theme. The Hung, being closer to Mongolians, could give us several variants of Horse Archer. The Tong, known as Savages and Violent Barbarians, could provide light cavalry that either wield great weapons or dual weapons. As far as his campaign mechanic for betraying other factions, I don't have any sprawling in-depth ideas that are exciting to me. He acts as Tamerkan's diplomat and plays a crucial part in gaining alliances with the likes of Beastmen and Chaos Dwarves, only for those alliances to crumble later. Perhaps Sayl can force an alliance with 2 other Chaos factions. He gets a mission for each faction. Whichever faction's mission you complete first remains your ally, and perhaps they give you gold items or even units from their race. The other faction immediately declares war on you and the ally. Just an idea. Let me know in the comments if you have any others. Also, it should definitely tie into Norsca's Allegiance of the Gods mechanic, but that will depend on how they rework that system. And before we move on, I want to talk about how stupid a Fimir Noble as the generic hero is. Currently, we have 1 human melee generic lord in the Marauder Chieftain. We have, for generic heroes, a human spellcaster with the Shaman Sorcerer, a monster spellcaster with the Fimir Balefiend, and a monstrous melee hero in the Skin Wolf Werekin. So the next most obvious choice for a generic lord is a human spellcaster, right? And the next most after that would be a monstrous lord for your Throg campaigns, right? And the next most obvious choice for a generic hero would be a melee human, right? And that is my argument on why Fimir Nobles should be generic lords, because they are super redundant as heroes. Give us a Jarl as the hero version of a chieftain, or perhaps a monster hunter who can throw javelins and is just very good anti-large, possibly skirmisher. Rounding up some units that may end up being part of this DLC, foregoing we ever get Bjork Bearstruck as a legendary lord in the future, I would expect skin bears, similar to skin wolves, but instead of being werewolves, they are werebears. Perhaps a bit slower, but bigger, meaner, and closer to minotaurs or croxagores in size. Also, a skin bear generic lord could lead your monster armies too, and more feral monster units would be nice. Foregoing we don't get Mona Mim as a legendary lord, we could get any number of Fimir or Albion-themed units, as Fimir Shurls and Hurlers would be lower tier in the Fianna Fim, which are the Fimir cast currently in the game. The other big ticket would be Fen Beasts, who would be a very similar to the Rogue Idol of the Greenskins roster, a titanic elemental monster made of mud and plants, bones and rock. Lord Mortkin is more about bringing units to Norsca from the other rosters of Chaos, rather than bringing in new ones, but his Black Iron Reavers could be a variant of Huskarls, which could be a small champion unit of somewhere between 16 to 32 entities. Huskarls could come with shield and halberd variants, Black Iron Reavers could come with great weapons, and the Crimson Reapers ROR could come with dual weapons. Even outside of the units that these three lords bring, there is enough lore to suggest plenty of possible units still missing for Norsca. Norskins absolutely use bows, not near the ability of other human factions like Kislev, but still, I wouldn't mind getting a Marauder Hunter with bows variant, perhaps in a free interim update. Or you could have Bondsmen, essentially a tier 0 slave unit that could wield spears, flails, or bows. The Marauders with bows, though, would be similar to Orc Error Boys. The Bondsmen would be similar to Bretonnian Peasants. Whalers would be a higher tier unit to the Marauder Hunters with javelins. Oh, and Norskins could use mangonels, which would be similar to the Bretonnian Trebuchet. For balance reasons, I would probably not give this to the other Chaos factions, but also Norsca should not just feel like Chaos Light. Vikings use catapults and such. Flayerkin, I've talked of before, essentially armor-piercing berserkers who maybe have an ability to climb walls at twice the speed of other units. Shield Maidens are probably lightly armored women warriors and just a very welcome addition, the fastest infantry on the roster and possibly with an encourage aura, so they can move around and provide leadership wherever the battle line needs it. May wield any number of hand weapons with their shield, such as axe, sword, or spear, and may additionally wield bows. Valkyries actually had tabletop rules and could be taken as a hero or champion, which gives us yet another generic hero option instead of the Fimir Noble. Though in Old Hammer, they were the hero version of the Shield Maiden unit, so they were not angels with wings, but could mount a horse, Pegasus, or Manticore potentially. Though with the existence of Valkia, Valkyries could be incredibly elite units that would function perhaps like Doom Knights, if they were reinterpreted to have wings. Rounding out the monster units, I would very much like if Throg could recruit all the trolls, including greenskin trolls and lava trolls, though sea trolls and snow trolls exist and could essentially act as Norscan reskins of the greenskins, river trolls, and stone trolls, respectively. The cherry on top of that would be if Throg had an exclusive hero to his faction, the giant sea troll hag. Like the river troll hag could be a Lore of Deathcaster, though I would love to get the actual lore of trolls in the game, like river trolls. Sea trolls would have an overwhelming odor. The snow trolls would have more armor than the ice trolls, or you could just give an armored ice troll variant too, like we get armored chaos trolls. The Ymir are a special breed of beastmen native to Norsca that are like a mix between Bestigors from the Beastmen roster and Yetis from the Ogre roster. Think of them as yet another marked Gore, but this time they have frostbite attacks. Ice Tigers are a smaller breed of saber-tusk found only in Norsca. Saber-tusks with frostbite attacks are probably redundant with ice wolves, though. Speaking of ice wolves, what if we got a variant of armored ice wolves? Speaking of ice froster sea giants are not at the top of my list since we have Norscan giants. I'm just saying these variants do exist. The real giant variant we need is the Curs'd Ettin. Though not technically a giant, it is near the same size. The main difference being that it has 2 heads, and at least one of those heads has a far fiercer intellect. They can possess other mutations such as scaled skin, acidic blood, spiky growths, calcified talons, or hands that bulge and harden into massive hammers. Ettins are also capable spellcasters, making them Norsca's answer to greater demons. Branded with magical unholy runes, they could wield the lores of shadow and death, so they should have one spell from each lore that they can use as a bound ability twice per battle. Both heads are fighting for supremacy always, so perhaps when one head is in control, you get a boost to all melee stats, but can't spellcast, and or may rampage. When the other head is in control, it can spellcast and give encourage, but is weaker in melee. So yeah, Norsca's greater demon with personality shifts like Luther Harkon. DLC seller, fully expecting it. With all of those units in mind, why the fuck is Norsca getting the Chimera as a unit? Don't get me wrong, I've waited for the Chimera for a long time, but for Warriors of Chaos, please say there are plenty of Viking-flavored units to pick from here. Okay. Don't make Norsca feel more like Chaos Light than it already does. And with that, we've wrapped up the content for this video, but with this video, I've been fluctuating in the hiatus since my last one, but around 750 subscribers, so 3/4 of the way to 1,000. So I want to thank everyone that's been here since the beginning, that is new to the channel, and everyone in between and beyond. I've been considering starting a Patreon, as part of the reason I took a hiatus was because the subscription to my video editing software ran out. So I needed to pay for a new one, but money is tight, so I was putting it off for a little bit. There wasn't a whole lot going on. But with the idea that, if I'm making some more money off of this, or any money off of this, actually, that, I can make more room in my time to finish these videos for y'all. So, if you enjoyed it, please like, comment, subscribe. I'm definitely going to be talking about Neferata. I'm definitely going to be talking about Bjorg Bearstruck, Mona Mem, and Lord Mortkin in some of my future videos upcoming. So stay tuned for that. Thank you.